Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Making Life Brighter Radio, and I'm your host, Winifred Adams. And today we have a really fun show. We haven't been live in a little while. I've been sharing with you some very important featured shows, actually. And I want to recap some of those shows, what we've been doing here on Voice America and Making Life Brighter, especially. And I want to bring to your attention a couple current events that are really important, and they're in the theme of making life brighter when it began. So we started out here on the Health and Wellness channel, and now we're on the Variety channel because we talk about lots of different current events and things. But I am so excited to share with you some of the things that are coming along in our world, things that I spoke about over 10 years ago, saying, look, hey, this is going to come in the future. Healing, as you know it with healers, is going to change to light and sound healing. It's going to change into what used to be the ancient technologies for healing. And so we have that. It's here. It's arriving. It's been here. And for those that know, they know. And for those that don't know, you're going to know after today. So we're very excited today. It's a new benchmark day in the world. And I'm wishing you all, first up, a very sweet and happy, loving Valentine's Day coming up because, after all, we love love. And making life brighter is all about love. It's about making people's lives brighter, either by sharing whatever your expertise is and making someone else's life easier by doing so, and or by sharing kindness, love, and most of all, your sweet spirit that really is in there in everybody if we'll look hard enough, right? Especially now because we're in this place of polarization. We're in this place where the world is dominating us instead of us living in the world. And so we have a choice now to choose your autonomy in the moment, now by now by now. And this is something that I teach in my courses like the Ascension series. And it's something that I go through in the short-term courses that I do around masters. Like I just did a master class recently, and I will follow it up coming soon with the Ascension series again, and a new and different version, which is going to be amazing. We're going to go into the depth of the Christed energy, the Christed light, the masters, all the saints that have come to earth and what they do and why they do what they do, but looking into also the quantum field and how the quantum field actually works together with that. So we like to talk about science here. And when we talk about science, I can tell you from a firsthand perspective what it's like from a medical intuitive's perspective or healer. And so some of the narrative that I'm seeing out there right now is bucking up against that with doctors pushing back saying don't trust experts in their field, trust only medical professionals. Well, that's great, but there are medical intuitives that are actually assisting medical professionals. So there is a, a bona fide necessity to honor and understand the gifts and talents of some of the people that actually can bring healing and or life-saving efforts to others. So in my world, I pray and hope that one day, before I leave this planet, all of that will be married together, and that allopathic medicine will be married together nicely with holistic medicine. And these modalities will actually complement one another, which they should be doing already. We're just late to the party because of, uh, let's say, regulation, right? So we're looking forward to the new technologies, which are actually ancient technologies. Some people say it's off-planet technologies. I don't know about that. Maybe it is. But as of this past week, well, last week and a half, we have a new announcement in the world. And this might bypass many people. And for those that are awake, they know. And I'm not talking woke, I said awake. The people that are actually spiritually awake know that there is something better coming. And that something better has landed on us at this point and is now beginning its rollout in Florida. So the med beds are here. What are the med beds? The med beds are advanced technology for stem cell regeneration and healing. And so it would be like entering into a system that's a bit like a pod, and your body regenerates in this system, and it regenerates so swiftly and so complementary to your being that you actually can almost heal your whole body and in some cases dial yourself younger. Now, that's really interesting as a concept. And wouldn't everyone like to do that? Wouldn't everyone like to come in and, you lay down for an hour or two, or you do a series of sessions and lo and behold, your disease is gone, your cells are functioning better, everything is better, but do you recreate it by the same thought patterns and the same behaviors and habits? You get to the illness stage yet again because you yourself have not changed. So we're going to be looking at this over time and kind of watching along because it's pretty phenomenal. And I would say this technology is so phenomenal that for people that are really in dire straits, that need something like, I know of people that need 1 more inch to the colon that was removed. They need 1 more inch in order for the ability to connect that back up again. But they don't have that. Now imagine if you could take stem cell technology and or regenerative technology like the med beds and actually apply that. If you could apply that and you could grow that 1 inch and it could regenerate in healthy, strong cellular structure, now that person wouldn't have to have, say, a colostomy bag or something. Their colon would actually function better. And, excuse me, to the point of Russell J. Gould when I interviewed him, and we talked about 5G, we talked about the pollution that's happening, the purposeful modification of seeds and pollution to even the subspace in the air. In other words, that which pollutes your thinking. You might want to go and check that show out, by the way. It's here on the archives at Voice America Media. And on my host page, you can go back and look for it. It's The Truth About 5G, and you might want to hear that. But he talked about having people have a jubilee for a year, right? And if they had a jubilee, why would they need that? Because they're so polluted in their food intake, in the water intake, in the substances that are put in the food, that they don't have the ability to think at capacity that they normally could at optimum functioning. Their body can't function properly. If you have an issue in your colon, let's take your transverse colon. In Chinese medicine, if you have an issue in the transverse colon, you may have an issue in your lungs. Your lungs might be more susceptible to something. If you have an issue in your colon in general, depending upon which side of the colon it is, especially from the study of iridology with Bernard Jensen, you can see, and they've mapped scientifically, what organ systems are actually affected by that. So now, if you are able to go back in and pinpoint, like medical intuitives can do in a body, and diagnostic medicine can actually also verify and back up, and you can see that clinically. Let's say you know there's an issue in the ascending colon. Well, all the organs that are associated with that, if that issue were fixed, and fixed at a core level of a stem cell level, imagine what would happen to the rest of the body. Imagine all the corresponding organs would have a healing effect as well, because we're not isolated organ by organ. That's an archaic way of thinking. And frankly, even our great grandmothers knew that. They knew if you do this, that can happen over there. They may have not had all the scientific data, but they sure were more advanced in the ancient days than we are today. In fact, in Egypt, what they used to have is they used to use the ankh. That symbol of the ankh was used as a tuning fork for sound healing. And so you would walk into an entire chamber and recalibrate your frequency to the calibration of that divine essence or sound frequency going on in that tomb or chamber. When you came out, it's like having a tuning bowl therapy session. The tuning bowls resonate in you. The tuning bowls actually recalibrate all of your structure. And what they also do is they break up crystalline structure that's in the way of optimum functioning in your structure. So therefore, if we were to put ourselves into a sound chamber, now remember, we are derived from the word, the sound, a frequency. Your heart beats in electricity, it's a frequency. So you do attune to frequency. And as I say, all the organs attune to frequency, and those organs have a harmonic. And then the organ system of the organs have a harmonic. And then the harmonic of that whole section is also an overlaying harmonic. So you have all of this can be individually experienced. Now, if you go into an chamber, and they're trying to do this like with the EEF systems and the doctors that have these healing rooms and so on. I interviewed Dr. Sandra Rose Michaels here on this show about her system, which she says comes from a download of alien technology. And I went and tried that out. And I took my dog with me at the time. And so when we did that, we laid in a room and all these frequencies were broadcast to us in the room. Now that's similar to the chamber that I'm talking about back in Egypt, only this is electronic frequency, despite the code that's used, which does harmonize and you can feel it. The dog immediately laid down and passed out. I could feel it. The client I brought with me who had cancer at the time, she could feel it. It was calming, it was soothing. What did it do exactly? Well, no one can say that because everybody's still stuck in the archaic era. We can't talk about that. Not because they don't want to, it's because it's regulated. But coming soon, now that the med beds are coming out, we're going to have a similar experience where how they change the frequency and the light body actually affects the DNA and can affect your ability to regenerate healthy pathways. Because think about it, cancer is an epigenetic head shift on the gear head of the gene. So if the gene doesn't express, you may not have cancer. But in the right environment where it's toxic, the gene might express cancer. So we would aim at regulating away all of the toxic environment that then allows the harmony from the heart and the spirit to override into that system and take it into a place where you can utilize it for proper pathway regulation as well as proper energetics that carry through your blueprint of your spirit into every cellular structure and come out the other side whole. So, wow, that was a big, long, windy segment. I'm going to take a break. We're going to be right back. We're going to talk more. We have a lot to go through today, so stay tuned. You're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio, and I'm your host, Winifred Adams. You can like us on Voice America Media on YouTube. You can like us on Making Life Brighter on YouTube, and you can find me on X under @Winifred Adams. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. And we're back. You're listening to Making Life Brighter. Welcome back. My name is Winifred Adams. Thank you for listening. And you can find me on my own YouTube channel under Making Life Brighter. You can also go to my host page on Voice America Media, and you can listen to all the archive shows we've done since 2015, way before podcasting was a thing. And we've been ahead of the game on the Health and Wellness channel as well as the Variety channel, featuring experts in their field and those that are making our lives brighter. And today I want to touch on a few things. I just talked about the med beds, and here we are. We're coming into this beautiful, beautiful position of newness here in our world, and everything's going to change in the year of the fire horse. So get ready. If you're not ready, get ready. How do you get ready? Sit down and be still so that you have lots of energy to go through whatever we're going to be up against next. And part of what we're coming on into is a shift in the banking, shift in the world, digital. Digital is coming, like it or not. And it's sort of like when you had a debit card. Before you had a debit card, you had to go to the bank and do everything. Well, then you got a debit card and you got an ATM. And I actually remember when that rolled out. Imagine that. And now we take that for granted. Now it's our everyday thing. So soon we're going to have one card with all of our information set on a blockchain. And that blockchain is going to hold the data, real ledger transaction time, and it's going to also assist us with having all of our data on one space. As you know, it's very difficult to keep track of everything and have safety built in as well. But the blockchain seems to be a pretty solid situation. And I actually know a fella who is in my meditation group as I came along through my studies, who was part and parcel of the beginning of the research into blockchain technology and how it would work for us eventually. And so that was done at a university, and that was a pretty interesting study. But he ended up contributing to how that system saves data and keeps that ledger going. So we're heading toward that. So get ready this year because we have a brand new opportunity coming to us. And that opportunity is going to maybe feel a little bumpy for some people when a changeover takes place, because whether you like it or not, the changeover is happening. And so therefore, like everything, you're going to have to kind of work along with what's happening. It's kind of like today, the world keeps presenting to us. And it's presenting all kinds of opportunities. But the still line, the through line, is still that quiet stillness of introspection into the spirit and then back out again. So if you want to heal a body, like with the med beds, the med beds are an overriding frequency that are going to work on your system and actually help recalibrate all the way through your DNA and your blood. That is something you don't run around and receive, you lay down passively and receive. So you're still in the creation of that healing. Just like with other healing, you lay on a bed, you're in a still position, and stillness is where healing happens. And I always say this. It's in the stillness that the healing happens. It's not in chaos. It's not in thinking. You can't think yourself to well-being. You can't think yourself to healing. And some would disagree with me. They would say, yes, actually, we can think to wellness. When you suspend all thinking, and I know this for a fact because of the work that I do, when you suspend the thinking is when the healing actually happens. You can lend to a positive environment by positive thinking. And with the positive thinking, you begin to change your own chemistry, which changes the outcome, the ability for the body to respond. But what happens is the ego finally fades down and gets quiet. And eventually the spirit kicks in and overrides the ego thinking and the ego suggestions, the mental thinking. So I work with this a lot with people when I'm doing individual appointments and things, and they're also realizing this fact in real time. What we're going to be seeing is a change in the systems from every point of view this year. You can hear about it through astrology. You can see it on the map. You can hear about it in politics. A lot is going to change in our world. So are you prepared for that? Do you have some extra silver and gold on hand in case things chunk out for a minute? Do you have the flexibility in your thinking and in your biology to bend with the flow of what's coming? Can you flex and flow in quietness and just allow and then move into the next position? Because we're about to change on the level similar to when the horses were here one day and the Ford was here the next day. So this is about a massive shift this year. And it's really not about politics. So we kind of need to step out of the red and blue situation. It's about humanity. And at the core level, from the experts that we talk to, from the firsthand experience I have from sitting at very unique seats at tables along the way, seeing this time coming, yes, indeed, we are moving toward a golden age, but that's also a promise. And that is a dimensional field we line up to. And as we come along through all that, what's going to happen for us is we're going to see an ease. So where people are saying, AI is no good, you shouldn't have AI, it's going to ruin everything, perhaps, but there's going to be an entire generation of people that's what they know. That's how they come along and grow up. Just like kids on phones today. Everyone says, I give my grandchild my phone and then they fix it for me because they know how. It's part of their life. It's what they grow up with. It's their language. And we don't really have time now to dialogue about what's coming because what's coming is here. It's actually here. The med beds are here. We're in a space of now, well, Florida is going to be using these. It's using these. There's federal funding to roll out 200 centers across the United States for med bed usage. This is paramount. Why is this important? Because people that are suffering exponentially will be able to more quickly alleviate that suffering and heal on a level that all of their everything can heal. It's not just one thing or it's not just pointed. Like this will accelerate the depth and the outcome of healing in a much different way. So going back to ancient Egypt, like I talked about in the first segment, they used light and sound technology. And they knew everything about how the stars line up in the sun. And then when it comes in vectors through that one opening in the pyramid and then the light hits the thing, it's sort of like the Indiana Jones movie. But in fact, it's real. And there is a cosmic lineup to what's happening in our world. And the cosmic lineup is aligning to a giant shift. But if you can keep the premise that the shift is actually happening in many ways to our benefit, we're going to a greater place. That which cannot hold the frequency of the divine light coming in will fall away. And that which is on track for these things that are going to help humanity are ours to receive. Can you receive them? Will you be able to flex and bend into the new? That's where we're headed. So speaking of digital, I'm going to come back to the topic that I first started out with when I came back on air in November, and that is Texit coin. And Texit coin is going. Texit coin is moving along. And if you have questions about it, I'd be happy to answer that for you. I have people that I can put you in touch with that can get you involved if you want to. It's a very interesting technology. It's a decentralized coin, but it's being rolled out in cities near you. So what does that mean? Well, when you go to the fair, you go down to your local shops, you might be able to use Texit coin to purchase something. If you're an entrepreneur, you might be able to use Texit coin to actually take that and build your own infrastructure on top of for commerce. It's here in the United States, but it's being offered worldwide. It is like Bitcoin before Bitcoin became Bitcoin. So if you're looking for something where you want some legacy and to have a great opportunity, and you can kind of get on that rocket ship, as they call it, and get a seat on it before all the seats are gone, you can get in fairly cheap, and the price is coming back up. And now they're moving into Asia. They're moving into Dubai. They just launched Dubai. They just opened in Dubai. Very interesting. In Dubai, they're going to work it specifically. And over there, to give you an example, people that buy into Texit coin can buy in for as little as $1,000. Over there in Dubai, they come in at $250,000. That's a big difference. Think about that for a minute. So we have opportunities sitting in front of us, and in watching that roll out and the people that are involved in it, it looks like a very interesting opportunity for people. And you can actually get your money back fairly quickly if you take that opportunity and work it or share it with anyone else. And then you're paid for, you're done. And whatever else happens is profit from the way I see it. So that could help a lot of people. It could help a lot of healers. I see a lot of healers struggling. It could help the people that are out there that are trying to make ends meet and just get the bottom line covered. Texit coin has a very strong standing right now in a unique way. And as it comes into the environment for city by city, whether it's being used for festivals, fairs, or anything, you have an opportunity to join in and jump in. So I thought when Melanie shared with us and she came on back in December or whatever, that was super cool. Well, it's continuing to be cool. So I want to share that with you. You can reach out at radio@makinglifebrighter.com for more information, and you can go to makinglifebrighter.com for putting in your data for information, and someone will get back in touch with you. It is important. It's something that's coming, and there are people joining in who are young people up to 70, 80 years old. It's an interesting, fast moving, not too fast, but fast moving, solid situation where they're going to use it in commerce. And that's kind of cool. It's coming, folks. We're all going to have to learn it just like people didn't think they could learn a cell phone. Well, guess what? They are, and they will. And this is going to be one of those opportunities where you will. It'll just become part of your structure, your your daily in and out. So the sooner you learn it, the better. And if you're going to learn it, I learn it with a team like I have, because the team is phenomenal. And we walk you through it. We show you how to use cryptocurrencies and wallets and everything else if you're not familiar. And you have a solid base from which you can pull from, and people will actually support you and help you in that. And it is good. It's educational. It'll stretch your brain a little bit, but once you get it, and then it's easy. So everything's going to move toward that, including all the banks, like it or not. Banking is changing. It's going to change. We're going to cross our fingers that it's moving away from much of the fraudulent activity that has taken place that people know about. And when we come back from break, we're going to get into the next segment of what's changing, what's coming, where we're headed. Okay, we have a lot coming up this year. The year of the fire horse is phenomenal. You're listening to Making Life Brighter. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Thank you for listening, and please share. Thank you for listening. You're listening to Making Life Brighter, and I'm your host, Winifred Adams. We have had some great shows in the last few weeks. We started out with information on Texit coin, which I just talked about last segment, and we segued into Full Court of Atonement with Amy Jo Ellis. That's awesome. And if you haven't gotten that app, you need to go download the app today and work with it. If you need some help with that, reach out and I'll point you in some good directions. Amy Jo Ellis and the Full Court of Atonement is a very interesting way to work for change from the spirit level on down. And it's a nice app. It's great. We also have had The Charming Predator and Lee Mackenzie. What a phenomenal story that was. It was made into a movie and a film and debuted in Wales recently. And now she has had that opportunity to see that film, and it's going to come out around the world further. But if you didn't check out that show, please go back and listen. It's both on Making Life Brighter on my YouTube, as well as it's on the archives here on Voice America on my host page. So The Charming Predator is about a man that she married who was like the world's greatest con man. And it was really interesting because this man just kept doing it over and over again. And her story is phenomenal. Here's a woman that has hopes and dreams and ends up becoming a popular news anchor. And she's got this fellow that is just running circles of con jobs around her. And so she ends up calling that out. But her story of triumph is really special. And for any woman, not even a woman, any person that really has been in a scenario where it's been confusing like that, you have to hear this story. She's amazing. We've had other great shows on, and I've spoken with Sergeant William Cotel several times on the show. We were groundbreaking. We were the first. We were the first to call out COVID. We were the first to call out death by dollars and what New York State was doing with respirators in hospitals and the phony lines around the hospitals, which weren't, by the way, they weren't. So we covered that first here. And as I've always championed William Cotel because he is ahead of the game. He's always been ahead of the game. And he's so truthful. He's been honest every step of the way. He's filed his mandamus, and we talked for years, first up on this show, because no other place would take that information. On Making Life Brighter, we debuted his mandamus that he filed about Venezuela and the withdrawal from Afghanistan. And they promptly threw that out. They wouldn't listen. And he had to keep pushing that through. And they literally gaslit his filing. And they ignored it. However, many senators and people took the wording from the filing verbatim and used it for their own feather fluffing so that they could look important about what's going on in Venezuela. But I'm going to shout out that it was Sergeant William Cotel who did that, who did all the research on it and waved the flag high saying, folks, there is something really wrong going on down there. And that really wrong is going to affect our borders. It's going to affect us and how safe we are. So we covered that show, and I tried to help him take that show and put it out further. I tried to take it to Fox News and to other places. They wouldn't have it. They wouldn't feature him. And so here we have the invasion of Venezuela finally. And that was, in part, probably spurred by William's mandamus, which is listed, and you can go read it for yourself, and I highly recommend that, on makinglifebrighter.com. So if you go onto the main page there, you will see that posted and you can read it. It's very important. And what he calls out and what he talked about is equally important. The withdrawal from Afghanistan is a whole nother subject matter. And we got into that too because it was unlawful. It was horrific, actually. I even know of someone who was left behind there. And I know of the people that rescued the dogs that were left behind there that were actual military assets. So they did get the dogs back, finally. That was a costly donation-only endeavor. They finally got that done, thank God. And they eventually got all the people back. But the assets are being lent out around the world. They're being stolen and segued into other countries. And that's kind of a dangerous endeavor. No one cared. And no one cared. They silenced William and they silenced his mandamus. So I'm going to draw to your attention to go and read that on the Making Life Brighter website, please. Because what happened in Venezuela, Making Life Brighter covered first. And it fell on deaf ears, but did it? I don't believe it did, because now we have this that segued into what you've seen as a culmination. So what really happened in Venezuela right now? Well, my sources are telling me there was actual Chinese banking that was going on there. And they were setting up banks in Venezuela. And so what happened is they couldn't have that, because that's an infrastructure setup in the middle of that country, lockstepping basically a terrorist and supplying that terrorist with whatever means he might need. So they shut that down. And other people will say, well, it's, our president who has, he's gone too far in doing these things and invading a country and so on. I like to talk about what I know as a fact on this show. I don't really like to get into opinions because that doesn't really get us anywhere. So I'm looking for the bottom line fact. I can tell you from what I talked about with William that that was, in fact, true, that this man was torturing his own citizens. He was doing things I don't even want to talk about. It was disgusting what was happening. He needed to be shut down at some point. And what they found going into that situation was so heinous that they had to use their new weaponry on basically paralyzing people in order to get to the heart of the matter. Now that leads me to something else. It's a little off topic and kind of out there for some of you, but I'm going to share something with you that I don't often talk about. I spent a good deal of time researching from a fella in upstate New York, researching Dogman. Some of you are familiar with Dogman, some of you are not. What is Dogman? Dogman is some kind of creature that's like 7 feet high, that looks like a dog, looks like a German Shepherd, but stands on its hind feet, can stand upwards of even to 12 feet high, and is very built, very strong, extremely strong, and looks like a German Shepherd head, has big long claws as hands, and is an apex predator here on Earth. Now, some people say it's a cryptid. It moves through dimensional fields like Bigfoot, and Bigfoot's a pretty big theme all around. It was in upstate New York, and it was here. Now, I can tell you for a fact that there are entire police departments that have sections that are set aside for dealing with this. Now, that's not true. People would say that's crazy. There are, and there are many that don't know about it. Now, when I was traveling back in June, I crossed through the Dakotas, and I ended up talking to someone that had been an officer and an agent, and I asked point blank, have you ever heard of Dogman? And he laughed and he said, oh yeah, and I'm glad I've never seen one. But I've seen other things that were, and he thought about it, and I said, not organic? And he said, yes, not organic. That's a good way to say it. Now, why am I telling you this? Why am I bringing it to your attention? Because it's a hot topic. And so are some of the research little tidbits that I've found about this. And people think this is sensational. But I'm going to bring it back to the invasion of other countries. They did genetic modification down under New Mexico in some of the dark, deep places that they have in underground bases. And they modified these dogmen, which have been here through lots and lots of time. I'm not sure where they come from, maybe another planet initially, but anyway, we as humans took some of them, captured them, modified them, and they became like what you typically look like as a werewolf. You say, oh, a werewolf. Well, there's dogmen and there's werewolves. And the werewolves are things that they've modified, trained, and used in Virginia, okay, for military invasion opportunities. Number one, they're a little more expendable. Number two, they can do twice. So it's said, I haven't seen this with my own eyes, but it's said in all the research that I've done that they can go in and clean house in 30 minutes to an hour, whereas it would take many hours for humans. Is that true? Well, some people that have been participants in the training of them say that's true. There are many, many eyewitness accounts of military paired with these things. And these things are working in conjunction like another super soldier alongside military. So, where the face of combat is changing, so is the use of different things from laser weaponry, sound paralysis, and these dogman slash werewolves that are trained and they're monsters essentially, but they're super soldiers and they go in and they get the job done. They don't talk about it. But the guy that trained them, I laugh because it's so outrageous, but it's true. There's so many stories of these things, so many. And you have to research it on your own to understand that there are accounts and accounts and accounts of people from all over, from military to police and to park rangers to average everyday people. Why don't we know? Because they're using them. They're using them in military invasions. And they're just wickedly strong and they're very adept and they're telepathic. How about that, right? That's something else. But we're heading in these directions. And as we move forward, we're going to come on to a time that I spoke about over 2 years ago in June on a quantum healing show that's here and archived. And I talked about the truth coming back out about what's going on. So we're going to hear someday about the history of those creatures from their point of view. We're going to hear from all the universal contributions that have come to Earth at this time. It's not just about us. The changes are here, they're just not all public. It's coming. And I spoke about Bringers of the Dawn, the book Bringers of the Dawn. I spoke about the Pleiadians, and all these things are contributing to our world. We think that we're so secular, and in fact, we aren't. But we as humans have been a bit of a plague, not learning from spirit as well as we could have. And now we're going to be faced with a time of change. And are we going to go like Atlantis? Or are we going to turn around and value spirit in the golden age and actually use that to our benefit? That's what we're up against next. This is where we're coming to, and we have a choice in that matter. So, getting caught up into the political popular narrative and getting lost in that versus seeing the big picture of change is going to be our opportunity. And when I come back, I have a little bit more for you today. Thanks for listening. You're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio, and we'll be right back. And we're back. Hey, I hope you guys have a great Valentine's Day. This is supposed to be a special day of remembrance of love and remembrance of another, and coming into a space tomorrow of just remembering the essence in another and why we care heart to heart to all others, right? So it's not just about the world and all the politics and the dogmen and the crazy things that are going on with people that are not in their heart space, but rather celebrating those that are in their heart space. And we have that opportunity every day, all day long. But if you are out there and you're having a very special Valentine's Day, definitely send me a picture of your sweet Valentine's Day and I'll put it out. That's so cool. And you can find Making Life Brighter on YouTube. You can find it on Voice America Media on the host page there. And you can look it up under Winifred Adams. If you just Google Making Life Brighter Radio, it's going to come up all over the place. So you'll find it. But yeah, I'd love to see what you're doing. I'd love to see your love stories and your sharing and any tremendous stories that you have of sharing. That would be great. You can see the sun shining right in to say, yes, 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 we love love stories. Yes, we do. Now, to turn the corner just a little bit, I need to address something that's pretty serious and it's up front for us this week. I have clients that are coming to me that are affected by the recent Epstein files being released. And those files are actually causing people all kinds of distress because people, by just association, are ending up thrown into the mix of this. And what's happening for them is their name is getting dragged through the mud. People are ganging up to hack them. They're ganging up to defile them publicly online when they really had nothing to do with that, let's say. So I want to bring this to your attention because here we like to listen to all points of view. We like to hear both sides of the coin honestly and evenly. And what's happening is, in this case, where it's a horrific thing that may have taken place, and certainly we're not behind anything to do with Epstein and child trafficking. Equally, people are being dragged through the mud and terrorized indiscriminately because somehow or another somebody they knew was in the file or got mentioned in the file or there was some reference to pizza or something, and it may have nothing to do with anything that is associated with him. So this is a really good time, especially with Valentine's Day coming up and remembering our heart space, to step back before we become the weapon of accusation and step back to say, do I really know this to be true? Is this in fact what's happening? Because when we start to be an accuser, we get the karma of being an accuser on a terrorist level where you begin hacking someone, you begin stealing their right to commerce, you begin taking away their jurisdiction in the world as they have a divine birthright. And as one master said out of Taiwan, she was a beautiful soul. And in her writings, in her books, one of the things that she says is the worst possible thing that you could do karmically is to defile someone's name, to actually take them and slander them in a way without cause. So this is a very heated subject. It's hard for people and the younger souls in this world to realize that that could go on and that these things are happening and have happened right under our nose because everyone's been asleep. They don't want to believe how bad it was and how deep the deep state goes. But equally, we need to reserve our right to accuse people until we have absolute fact in front of us because people are being harmed and their whole life may change because of this. When you get a mob of people coming at you, that's not better. That's no longer that you're doing essentially equal crime. You're harming someone else's life. So let's stay into the position, and I urge people to reserve their right for judgment. Put it up to God, put it up to Spirit, put it up to, I don't really know what's going on here, but you do, God, and you know how to handle this. And pray for those people. We are going to come into a time, I guarantee, that in that time of reckoning, we will have to humble ourselves to pray for the most hardened hearts. Pray for those that are struggling the most, that seem like the worst evildoers ever. But we're going to have to, in order to segue over kind of to the other side. And this is a good opportunity in practicing love today into through the weekend, and taking that love and also reserving judgment. Because when we're still, we have the opportunity to receive divine light, divine information, and perhaps even better or right action. So I offer you a thought about that because I'm seeing what it's doing to people. I'm watching the horror show of the fallout of that up close and personal with people. And it's terrible. What other people do that's terrible is one thing, but the fallout is a whole nother thing. So, urging you to stay in your heart center, stay in your heart fairy and the love that can go out, because even in the biggest political atmosphere, we need to be in our heart center. You know, that brings me to another topic that I'm going to touch on sooner than later, and that is, will Alberta actually become part of the United States? Will Canada annex to the United States? Technically speaking, for those in the quantum grammar, you know it's a territory. Will it come into the United States, and under what jurisdiction will it be, if it is, and how will that take place? We'll get into that soon. I just want to say thank you for listening. And today, I'm not going to play my music, but I'll sing you a little bit of one of my best love songs ever. And you can go on to iTunes and check out all my music under Winifred Adams. But this song, You Are My Rose, was one of the first songs that I did that was a really big song. It was a #1 wedding song on iTunes for a little while. I even had clients that came to me and said, wait a minute, that's you? I heard I used that for my wedding. Yep, they did. It was kind of funny. Synchronicity is great. And when God moves you, that's even better. So it's called You Are My Rose, and you can check it out on iTunes worldwide, on Spotify, anywhere. And it's been played in every single country around the world. And it goes like this. You are my rose. You are my rose. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I love listening to your heart, to the sweetness of the meat. There you go, guys. There's just a sample. You have to check it out. It's played on every radio station around the world. It's a beautiful love song. All right, go Jolly. As I say, thank you for listening, and you can check out everything on Voice America Media and just look up Making Life Brighter. We'll see you next week right here, and stay tuned. We've got a lot more for you. Go out and make somebody else's life brighter. Happy Valentine's Day.